I could be ahead of some of your range here. I'm going to call. No, you're not. He's got a flush. He's got a better flush than you. You got to fold. I don't know. I think just this time, I think I might actually be good. I'm going to call. I call. And of course, I'm behind. I'm talking about flushes, monotone boards, or where flushes come in on the turn or the river, and you think you're good, but villain's been betting, you are not. Learn to overfold. Here are three hands that provide quite a useful background to this and to why overfolding is better value in the longer term. I'll show you. In the first hand, I 3-bet villain from the small blind, and he calls the 3-bet on the button. This is what happened. It folds round to the button, who opens up 8. I've got ace queen off in small blind, so of course I 3-bet to 40. And he calls. And the flop comes down, a mono ace high spades board. I have top pair, good kicker, but actually on a mono board this is really only thin value here. I don't have a spade in my hand. So my default here would be to check it over and see what villain actually does. So I check. And he comes out and he bets small. Now his range here could be anything. He could have a 1-spade hand, pair with a spade. He could have a flush. He could have top pair. He could have anything really. He's just taken a stab, maybe because I checked. So I'm going to call this first bet on the flop. The turn is then a fairly innocuous sort of 10. I check again, and this time he bets again, but for about half pot size. Now, for him to actually double barrel here after I've 3-bet him, he has got to have a pretty decent hand. He knows I might have an ace in my range of some description. So I think he's either got a flush, he's either got a pair with a spade, or he's got some other sort of combo draw type hand. My hand is still really thin value. I think on a half pot bet I'm still going to go and call this one more street and then make a decision on what I do on the river. If there's another spade and he bets, I'm probably going to fold. So I call. And there is another spade on the river. So I check, getting ready to fold when he bets, and he checks back. I have to show my hand, my top pair, and he then throws in 6-3 of spades for the flush, which he actually got on the flop, barreled twice with the low flush, and I think he just felt that I've probably got a spade that's higher than his 6 and gave up. What to take out of this is basically this guy was prepared to, one, call the 3-bet with 6-3 suited on the button. Yeah, maybe questionable. But then when his small flush did land, he was prepared to bet it for 2 streets and maybe even a 3rd street if the 4th spade hadn't come. So he played that quite aggressively, even though he might have been potentially outdrawn, or he could have been running into a higher flush. Now in the second example, I open up a strong hand, get 3 callers, so we go 4-way, multi-way, folds round to the villain on the button, who then starts betting. I open up with my aces under the gun and get 3 callers. So we go 4-way to the flop, which is a mono heart flop. So I've got top overpair with the nut flush blocker. It's still really only a thin value hand with a monotone board. And so I actually decided to check here. I've got 2 players behind just to see what they may do in terms of stabs and bet sizes. So I check, and actually the button bets 25 into 50. That's actually quite a meaty bet, even though he's in position and last to act on a monotone board. That's quite chunky. His range here is going to be flushes, sets maybe, or good pairs with a decent heart in them. The fish folds to me, and I decide here, because of the size of the bet, just to call, not to check raise, just call, and the other fish gets out of the way. On the turn, there's a 7 of clubs. Doesn't really change very much. I check, and again, the button now bets about half pot. So he's still not scared that the flush is there. I've still got the nut flush blocker. If I hit a heart on the river here, then I've got the nuts. He may be doing this with other hands as well, so I might actually have some potential showdown value here if he actually does check back, if he decides to give up, if he is bluffing in some shape or form. So I call, and then the ace of clubs comes on the river. I now have top set. It's probably only thick value here on the monotone board. So I did think in game about donking out here small for a block bet to see whether or not I'd raise off or just call. But I decided ultimately to check and see what he did. He checks, and then he goes 150 here into the £200 pot on the river. I'm umming and I'm thinking, I don't really know this player. Any flush is ahead of me. I have got the nut flush blocker. I'm ahead of all of his other value here. You know, any of his sets or anything else, or any bluffs he might have. So I ummed and ahed, and I thought I might be good some of the time. I probably need to be good about 30% of the time, something like 25-30% of the time. So I decided to call, and of course he's got a small flush that he just decided to barrel off for 3 streets, and I called him down, landed on a top set on the river. It is still not good enough. It should have been a hand that I should have folded when I didn't hit the nut flush myself. And now for more pain, bigger pain. The final hand, where I open up and we go to a flop, 3-way, multi-way. I've got a beautiful combo draw. So I start betting, and then I get check raised by the big blind, and he keeps going. And this again is what happens. It folds around to me on the hijack, and I open up 10-8 of hearts, which is absolutely fine. This deep, that position, absolutely fine. I get a call from the tight fish on the button, and the big blind, who's a bit aggro, he's probably a bit tilted, has actually just called me as well. So we go 3-way to the flop. And I have a beautiful combo draw. I've got the flush draw here with the backdoor straight on the 9. I've got great equity, and it checks to me. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to bet relatively small third pot. It's sort of like a merged range bet. I'm going to do this with my low equity draws plus or my thin value plus, just to see what happens with the other players. I've only got one player trapped behind me, so that's absolutely fine. He checks, I bet small. The tight fish calls, and then the big blind puts in a big check raise. I look at this and go, okay, right, this guy's either doing this with a set, he might actually have a flush draw himself, possibly 2 pair, he wants to clear us out before the flush comes in. I've still got a really good hand here with my my equity, so I just call his check raise to then evaluate what happens on the turn, and the button tight fish, he folds. The ace of hearts comes in on the turn. Now, that converts my 10 high flush, which I have now, to third flush. So I'm only behind a queen or a king here if there is a flush. So I've got a pretty good hand here, but the fish on the big blind, sorry, he comes and he leads out for 90, which is a reasonable sort of chunky sized bet here. I think I'm going to just call this, and I decided to call because I've still got some really, really good equity here. I've got the third flush to the nuts. You know, what is he doing this with? Is he actually going to go again? Let's just see. I feel that I was priced in to call this, so I called. And then we get to the river, which is an innocuous 4. And, of course, he jams in his remaining 193 into 339. So here, you know, I've got to be right maybe 35-40% of the time, something like that. Is he doing this with a lower flush? Oh, possibly. I thought I tanked and I call. And he says, well, if you got the King of Hearts flush, you won. Well, I don't. And he turns over Queen 4 of Hearts. And he actually checked raise there with actually quite a nice combo draw on that flop with the pair and the flush draw. And I probably let the beauty of my hand override some sensible decision making. That should have been a fold on that river. These three hands hopefully demonstrate that at low live stakes poker, when there's a monotone flop or a flush comes in and villain keeps going, betting into you, showing strength, look at his bet size. If it's large, he's definitely got it. And you just got to learn to overfold, because you might hit a very good hand, but you are still probably behind. And those three hands cost me a lot of money. So I have to learn from my own mistakes, and hopefully you can learn from mine too. See you later. Bye.